Okay, so I mean, as I was explaining, please, I keep saying it over and over because it's so important. Read through the entire menu, write down every single menu item, or I mean, if you need to, write down every single menu item again, right? That's in this list. Sometimes you may reorganize things a little bit, okay? Write down what option groups go into each menu item. You need super detailed notes because there's no such thing as overly detailed. You want to know exactly for this menu item what option groups there are, right? Every single option group. And then you have to go in and be careful because even though it's not listed close by, this extra is not a menu category. It's an option group with option modifiers, but it affects about 50 or 60 menu items. Just this alone, right? But that's actually kind of easy to see. If we go down to the second page, that one little line here affects about 50 or 60 menu items, just that one little line. So it's so important just to read through the entire menu. Now, I kind of skipped the words here, but again, anytime you see words, read through it. Take super detailed notes. Write down exactly what it is. For example, my category is beverages, right? Menu items. Write it down, right? Every single one. Option group, write it down. And write down where these option groups point to. For example, this is going to, this option group is going to be, coffee, could be, sorry, yeah, coffee, you know, whatever. If it belongs to an entire menu category, fine. If not, write down the menu items that it has to belong to. Coffee, drinks, etc. Whatever. Again, however you want to do it, take down your notes. Okay. So you already see how important that can be. Now let's take a look at another menu. Give me a moment. So this is another pizza menu, right? It's kind of designed similarly. On the right side, you do see information on the location. You see their name of the business. Um, you see the address down here. You see phone number, and they actually have more than one phone number, right? And of course, hours of operation. So all that is very similar to the other one. Now, let me expand this. On the left side, you see something similar, right? Just like the other restaurant menu, you've got coupons. So again, be careful on that. You got to look through it, read through the detail. Home grilled paninis. Paninis are a type of sandwich. I mean, I think of it as a sandwich, right? Because it's got bread, it's got meat and vegetable fillings. So I kind of, in my mind, I group it like a sandwich. Down here below, whoops, sorry, it's a little hard to highlight this, but down here below it says available with white or whole wheat bread, right? Another option group. We have a choice of bread, white bread or wheat bread. Serve with fries, okay? So that's pretty standard so far, and then it goes on with the menu items. You'll notice the ingredients in the menu item, right? So we know we may need an option in case someone say does not want mustard, for example. Let's scroll down a little bit. That's fairly standard. Pasta. So this is pasta, right? Everyone knows what pasta is. Things like spaghetti.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Choice of. Whoops. Right here says choice of. A little hard to read, but that's what it says. And this is going to list out all of the different pastas that they have. So penny, angel hair, spaghetti, linguine, all different pastas. Let's go to the next line. More pastas, ravioli, fettuccine, or gnocchi. But here's something a little different. The top line, these are pastas that are free. You notice it says 175 extra. That means these over here is if you get these three pasta choices, it's an extra $1.75. Now, I'm gonna write that down on my notes, but I'm gonna ask the owner, is this correct? Is my guess correct? Meaning for ravioli, fettuccine, or gnocchi, it's $1.75 extra. For the other pasta choices, it's included in the price. So you want to double check with the owner or manager of the business. And that's why it's very important that you read through it. Also, if we look down here, it says add grilled chicken or shrimp, meaning whether you want chicken or whether you want shrimp to be added, it's an extra $2.75. So you see, even though it's not listed with the menu item, which are down here, all of this up here is very, very important on how we design the menu. Okay. These are similar. I'm going to shrink this up a little bit so it's easier to see. You guys can still read, I'm assuming. All right. Let me just look to see if there's anything that might be a little different.
Yeah, this should be good.
Mm-hmm. Whoops. Seafood, right? So seafood has similar options to the pasta, right? You got to even though it's a seafood, it's more like a seafood pasta dish. So that's another thing, by the way. Whoops. Let me scroll up. So even though this says pasta up here, right? If we go down, this is seafood, but it's really seafood pasta. So we have we have at our discretion something to do. Now, because there's only like 4 or 5 items. Now on pasta, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 menu items. If we go down a little bit more, the seafood pasta, whoops, sorry, jumping pages. The seafood pasta only has 1, 2, 3. In that case, what I would do is this. I might just choose to group those pasta dishes together. And you notice it actually has a little bit similar options over here as well. So again, sometimes we have at our discretion the ability to just group similar items, because if we try to make categories like too many of these categories, now they're going like down 3 or 4 pages of categories. We're trying to shrink that down as much as possible. So if it's very similar item and you know it's very similar item, you at your discretion, you can group menu items together. Now, one other thing is this. Look at this menu item. What does it say? Let me make it bigger if it helps. Give me a moment. What does that say?
Mussels or clams.
You know what mussels are?
Yeah.
Some kind of shells.
Yes. Yeah, it's another shellfish, just like clams are. We call it shellfish. I don't know if you call it that way, but it's similar to clams, except they're black in color, right? And then of course you have clams. That means this dish is actually 2 different menu items. You can either get a mussels or you can get clams with this pasta dish, this seafood pasta. Okay? So sometimes they list it this way, but you got to be very careful of the word or, right? Because when we do that, it's actually 2 different dishes. Down here again, you see a or, red or white sauce. So we have a choice of sauce, a red sauce, which is a tomato-based sauce, or a white sauce, which is usually like a cream-based sauce. Okay? So you can see how that word or is extremely, extremely important. That's why every single word, you have to read it. Let me see. Let me take a quick look at this. Right. Same thing with the toppings. Right. This is pizza again. With pizza, we have 3 different sizes that we see here. A personal, which is a 12-inch, and a large, and then Sicilian. If you don't know what the Sicilian is, it's the, you ever seen the large square-sized pizza? It's square, it's not round. That's a
Yes.
Sicilian.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what the Sicilian is. But you know, again, it's a different size. So this is fairly standard, right? A plain, a tomato pie. Tomato pie has no cheese. White, which means it's got cheese but no tomato sauce, and then tomatoes. Now going down here a little bit, you'll notice the toppings. So we actually have different, we're gonna have different groups. Just to let you know, if we read down here, this is our toppings: meatballs, mushrooms, green peppers, anchovies, pepperonis, etc. Right? But we actually separate it because personal toppings will only belong to any pizza that's the personal size, the 12-inch size, and it's 129, and they only put it on the entire pizza. That's why they say whole pie. When you get a large or a Sicilian, you'll notice that there's a half pie, meaning half pizza topping, right? So you have to be very, very careful when designing all of this and reading through everything. Okay, let me see anything else.
Okay, Anthony, as I checked, there's also on fresh tomatoes. There's also white or red, so it's also
Yeah.
a selection.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but you know, I've already covered the or, and again, you have to be very careful about that. So since you mentioned it, fresh tomatoes is a tomato pizza, but it's sliced tomatoes. It's not a pizza with tomato sauce, right?
Not the paste, right?
Tomato pie is usually a kind of like a pizza, but with the pizza sauce on top of it. So that's a tomato pie. But when they say fresh tomato, it's usually, you know, fresh sliced tomatoes. Slightly different. Okay. And of course, white or red, that means they may, when they say white, you know, they're just adding cheese along with the tomatoes, or red is the pizza sauce with sliced tomatoes. Again, you know, a little different in the way they design it. Okay. And again, it just goes back to, you got to kind of read through everything. Let me just take a quick look at here. There's really not a whole lot that we didn't cover in the other one. The other one was actually probably a better example of things that can throw you off, right? So this one's relatively simple. Give me one moment. Mm-hmm. Um, I think we covered a lot of what we have to look out for in a menu. The only reason I bring this one up is this. It's easier to see this menu than the Vietnamese menu I had before. This is actually a Chinese restaurant. But there's a reason why I like using this one, because, you know, the words are so different, you know, the written words. Anytime you see a menu that has 2 different languages, you know, in this case we have Chinese and we have English, we want to make sure that, hey, do you want the Chinese language or the other language in the menu as well? Because what happened is, when we're creating the menu item, we can actually put both in there. So whether it's the category, and let me go to the category, you notice we have a line for category name, which is usually English. And then we also have a line for second language, in this case, Chinese, right? Because not every location, everyone will be able to read English, especially the kitchen staff. So again, over here, you see we have the name of the menu item in English, and we also have the name of the menu item in Chinese. So when we go into menu item, we have the same thing. Name of the menu item in English, and we can put the name of the menu item in Chinese. Okay. Now this is going to be very important. And let me actually put that in there. I know it's not correct, but we use that as an example. I'm going to copy this. And what the copy function does is it just prints it down on the bottom. Okay, so that way you don't have to, copy and paste the name in Chinese up here, which is for the on-screen menu, down here, which is for kitchen printing, and down here, which is for the receipt. I can just put it up here, press a button, and it would populate, meaning it'll fill it out. So what is that for? Well, think about this. In the Philippines, you guys actually deal with 2 different languages, right? Whatever local language you are, and maybe even 3. Whatever the local language is, English, obviously, and then Spanish, because from my understanding, there's a lot of ethnic groups and the language can be slightly different over there. But you have your local language, you have English, and maybe Spanish. So you're actually dealing with multiple languages, so you kind of know. What if the staff in the kitchen does not understand English? Maybe they can read and write, just not in English. That's why we have the kitchen line too. So what we can tell it to do is print in the other language. And that's why we have that there. So anytime, and I'm mentioning this because anytime, this is another thing you'll have to write down, and you may have to do consultation to ask. Anytime you see a menu that has more than one language, ask them, what is the primary language that you want, right? The main language that everyone will be using. In the United States, most time the language will be English. But even though they ring everything up in English, even though their customers will read everything in English, the staff in the kitchen may not understand English. So that's why we have these options here. So that instead of printing the English name on a menu item, it'll print in Chinese. So that's why when we have that, that's something you have to note down. Okay. I think it's kind of it. That's why I listed that there. Okay. Now, again, going back to the menu structure, this is very important, right? Once you take down all your notes, once we create the menu, the first thing we're going to do is start with option groups, right? And option modifiers. After that, we create the menu item, create the categories first and then create the menu items. Okay. So this is what I want you to do. Is just review what we covered, go in and take a look at it, and then just take a look at the menu that we have. So that default database, go in and take a look at all the menu items and just take a quick look at it. The other thing I want you to do is this. It is a Friday, right? I want you to go in. If you see a menu, especially if you go to the mall, grab whatever menus you can. Take a look at them, right? I'm actually going to send you a few menus in email, and I want you to take a look at it, read through it, and then see if you can figure out what you need to do when you're designing it. So that's going to be your homework. All right.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
So you notice, even though we're talking about building a menu, you guys haven't even looked at how to build the menu in the POS software. We're mainly just talking about how to read the menu and what we have to do. All right. So that's going to be your homework for tomorrow. But let's take a look at this over here for a moment before you go. Actually, I'm sorry, not tomorrow, but like over the weekend. So when you come in on a Monday. Now, this is an example that I created more for US audience because I don't know how you really sell your menu items over there. But if you go to a high-end restaurant and you get a steak, do they come with sides like salads and stuff, or have that option? Or is it just a steak?
Yeah, they have the sides.
Okay, so this will be kind of familiar with you. So let's take a look at this. This is how I would create my menu after taking all of my notes, right? So number one, I take a look at all the options that I'm gonna need. That's number one, and that's all down here on the bottom. section, right? Whoops, can't really highlight that well on this page. At the very top, of course, is my menu category. This is after I've created it, but this is how it's going to flow. But the first thing I want to do is what type of option groups I have. Mm, I've got option group here, which is, things like salad dressing. I've got options here like sides and temperature. All of these are option groups. Okay. This is my category. Didn't mean to move that. But this is my category. It's steaks, right? I've got different types of steaks. This is my menu item. For example, a ribeye steak, porterhouse steak. I only put two because I'm sure you get the example, but T-bone steak, things like that. So let's say I order a steak. Well, what's one of my option groups that I'm going to need? Temperature, right? How is it done? Like things like well done, medium rare, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also going to have sides because a lot of times in the United States, when you order a steak, it's more like a steak dinner with sides that come with it. But a common one could be things like baked potatoes, mashed potatoes. It could be, sweet potato or yam. But you can also get a salad as a side or maybe some vegetables. But if you got a salad as a side, guess what? You have what we call sub options, right? That even though the salad is a modifier, that modifier, the salad, may have sub modifiers, child option groups. So one of them could be, of course, salad dressing because you want to know what that salad gets, what type of dressing. So that's how it's going to kind of flow. But when we're building it, this is why we need to get all of our options. We want to know all our option groups. We set everything up, the bottom half of this. Once we enter all of that in the system, then we build the menu items. That's how we're going to do it, right? So when we ring it up from top down. But when we're designing it, we want to do from bottom top. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, I want you to just simply take a look at the menu. I'm going to shortly forward you some menu examples, and I want you to just take a look at it and then just see how you would design it. Again, I just want you to start reading through the menus. Okay.
Okay.
And Joshua, again, you still need to cover the basic usage of the restaurant. You still need to make sure you know all of the printer setup.
Oh, yes. I also set up my mini station here. I have printers here, exactly, even cash drawer and the PAX card reader.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the packs right now because the pack setup in the restaurant is exactly the same as the salon. There's really no difference. I mean,
Yes.
the where the options are located may be slightly different, but for the most part, it's like I would call it like 95% the same. So I'm not too worried about the pack setup. Okay,
Uh,
at
okay.
least not at the moment. I'm more worried about printer setup, obviously, because there's going to be more different printer setup, right? The way they design the printers and how it's going to print is going to be a little different. That's why I need you to be fully aware of how to install an Ethernet printer as well as a USB printer and how to share a printer.
Yes.
Okay, because later on we're going to use that when we design the menu and build the menu for them. The other thing is, of course, the basic restaurant usage, and of course we're starting to go into building the menu. Now, there's going to be a lot of stuff I haven't covered, but as we go through the menu build, we're going to start going into different options, and it's going to start probably making better sense to you when we start doing that. Okay.
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 All right. So we're going to end it here. I want you guys to simply look at menus and then decide see how it's designed and how what type of notes you would take to when you're looking at it. And I'm going to actually send you a few menu in a little bit.
All right.
Okay. And
So
and
we'll
again,
just wait for that.
yeah. And again, when you go to the mall or whatever, especially a dine-in restaurant, if they have a menu you can take home, take it, right? You can use that as homework, right? Take it, see how it's designed and see how you would create it in the restaurant POS. And if you want to, you can take a picture of it, email it to me, and I'll take a look and give you pointers if you want to do that. Again, that's all homework. But I'm definitely going to give you menus to look at. Okay.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay. So we'll just end it here, and again, continue practicing in the POS.
Oh, sure, not
All
a
right.
problem.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Any questions before we go?
No, just want to practice more, and also I'll be getting some menus here in Philippines. Try to
Yes.
do it here.
Yeah, I didn't really pay too much attention to the menus in the Philippines because when I went back there, we were doing more about salon training, but it may be designed a little differently from how it's designed here, or it may actually be very similar. Who knows? But definitely, especially things like pizza shops or anything that's a dine-in shop, if they have a printed menu you can take home, please take it. If you take a clear picture of it, I can definitely give you pointers on how it would be designed. All right?
All right.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.